Hello and welcome. You're watching News Now Overnight with me, Siddhartha Talya. We're continuing with our rolling coverage as the Middle East tensions have flared up with Iran's retaliatory strikes on an American base in Qatar. If you're tuning in right now, let's alert you that we've in fact witnessed a latest escalation in this ongoing crisis, with Iran retaliating against American assets in the Middle East. Principally, of course, we're talking about the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. The much anticipated retaliation, which was on the cards, is now a reality. Iran has launched Operation Glad Tidings of victory against the United States. There have been retaliatory missile strikes on an American base in Qatar. Iran has also confirmed 6 retaliatory strikes on American bases, which it called a tit-for-tat response to the 6 US strikes on its nuclear facilities. There's an official confirmation from both the United States of America as well as Qatar that no casualties have been reported after these strikes. There have been no injuries reported either. Now, let's in fact recap some of the crucial developments in this particular matter. But before that, let's also in fact look at the missile strikes waged on the part of Iran against American military assets in Qatar. Well, let's take this across to our guests. We're currently joined by Captain Alok Bansal, Director of the India Foundation, Dr. Jeffrey Gunter, former American ambassador, and Lieutenant Colonel Avital Leibovich, former IDF spokesperson and Director of AJC Jerusalem. Many thanks to each of our guests for sharing their perspective on these crucial developments. Let me in fact go across to Ambassador Gunter first and foremost. Sir, now Donald Trump and his aides will of course be monitoring these developments very closely in the Situation Room. What's your expectation of a possible American response to what the Iranians have now done at the Al Udeid base in Qatar? It's the largest American base in the Middle East, known to house more than 10,000 troops. Of course, many of those have already been evacuated and no injuries or casualties are currently being reported. But how is Donald Trump likely to respond to this?
I think he understands and he's expressed that this is mostly a theatrical strike. Those people in the base, Qatar, and I understand also U.S. officials were advised of what was coming. So hopefully, like your prime minister has been calling for de-escalation, this might be the beginning of de-escalation. No injuries, no service people hurt. The United States is the strongest country in the world. The Iranian government not only understands that we will not tolerate aggression or attacks at our civilians, nor our military assets, but quite honestly, they are running out of individuals. If you look at the number of Iranian generals and military officials, they are dwindling lower and lower. And everyone knows that Donald Trump leads with peace through strength. And he first, right now, is leading through strength. And I believe that we will see de-escalation, and this will be another step forward for greater safety throughout not only Israel, not only throughout America, but throughout the world. It's a step in the right direction, but time will tell. If they go the wrong direction, I promise you Donald Trump will respond.
Lieutenant Colonel Leibovich, how do you see Prime Minister Netanyahu reacting to this turn of events? This was something that many people believed was on the cards after America got directly involved in this conflict by attacking 3 different nuclear installations in Iran. So many people believe that this was about perhaps a matter of time, and that has now indeed happened. How do you think Israel would be looking at these developments right now?
So I'll tell you how Israel is looking. Israel just resumed its attacks in Iran.
Yes.
A short while ago. We are talking about the 11th day of attacks, Israeli attacks in Iran. Very successful, I will say that. Today, for example, as you have noticed, Israel attacked a prison that is famous for its torture, is famous for arresting innocent people that just their only sin is they oppose the Ayatollah regime. and as well as other targets as well. For example, bases with ballistic missiles, launchers, and so on and so forth. Now, the question still remains whether Iran, weak as it is, will be willing to make concessions and sit around the table. Because what is obvious to us with the logic of the West and the moderate countries is not necessarily obvious to the Iranian leaders. Khamenei, because I'm not sure he is in full contact with his deputies. I'm not sure how communicable he is at this point of time. Needs to make this decision. Is he willing to put his pride aside? And for the Iranians, pride is a serious asset that they will not pass on easily, and make concessions and sit around the table. And by this, he will save his regime. If not, we are looking at additional attacks, which is right now the situation.
Right. In fact, there's responses now coming in from other countries in the neighborhood as well. Saudi Arabia has reacted to Iran's attack in Qatar, calling out the Tehran administration's response. It's unequivocally condemned Iran's attack on Qatar. Saudi Arabia has described this as a violation of international guidelines. It's also said that this is completely unacceptable and cannot be justified. Saudi Arabia has also said that it offers full support to Qatar and is ready to assist them. Let me take this back to our guests. Captain Bansal, how do you read what's been happening right now in terms of the latest escalation on the part of Iran? Now, we in India are also, of course, concerned about the fate of a large number of the Indian diaspora who reside in the Gulf in particular. And I'm pretty sure that our embassies there have been looking out as far as their welfare is concerned. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi did, in fact, have a discussion with President Pezeshkian of Iran barely a day ago. And he did talk about the need for de-escalation. But that de-escalation does not appear to have materialized, at least so far. How do you see the situation evolving, Captain Bansal?
See, firstly, the strike by Iran is actually at best notional. Okay. What they have done is that they have carried out 6 attacks, what they have claimed, on US bases in Doha, and they've claimed attacks on some bases in Iraq as well. Now, before carrying out the attacks, they are claiming that they had informed Qataris that they are going to launch an attack. And there has been no casualties, no damage actually in these US bases.
Correct.
So these attacks primarily are for consumption of the local population. They want to tell the local population that we have actually reiterated. We have actually retaliated to the US attack. Having said that, because if Iran had to actually retaliate, it had far better options. It could have actually attacked the shipping in the Persian Gulf and could have sunk a few ships, and that could have actually created a havoc as far as the Persian Gulf was concerned. It could have attacked the larger areas where I think there could have been much more shipping. But I think Iran has not done, and this attack also comes after more than 24 hours after the US attacks on Iranian. So clearly, Iran does not seem intent on aggravating the conflict. But having said that, now if there is a US retaliation, I'm sure Iran would be forced to retaliate. There is no doubt about it. Iranian regime is crumbling. That fact I understand. Iranian regime actually is very unpopular. But having said that, conflict, an external conflict is actually not the way regime change can be effected. Invariably, in any country, when there is a conflict, the population invariably rallies around the flag. So to my mind, despite Velayat-e-Faqih, Khamenei being extremely unpopular, I don't think so this is the right time when we could probably carry out a regime change. Though that would be highly desirable. Actually, changing the regime in Iran would be highly desirable. That could bring Iran into the mainstream. All the problems that have been associated with Iran would probably vanish. But at the moment, I think what the regime is trying, it's trying to defend itself. It's trying to go through the motions, trying to show to their domestic population that, yes, we have not buckled down, we have retaliated, and that's it. Now I think the ball is in US court. As long as US does not retaliate, I think Iran-Israel slugfest will continue for some time to come.
Right. I'd urge our guests to stay with us, but the visuals that you just saw on your screens a short while ago were from Doha in Qatar, where there appears to be a bit of panic inside one of the malls following the attack that took place on the Al Udeid base in Qatar. It's, of course, southwest of Doha. Let's, in fact, listen into what exactly happened. This is a visual that we're bringing to you from a mall in Doha in Qatar. So the Al Udeid airbase, just for the benefit of our viewers, is approximately 49 kilometers or 30 miles southwest of Doha. Let's take this across to our guests as well. Ambassador Gunter, there was a very interesting response that came from Qatar in the immediate aftermath of the Iranian attack on the Al Udeid base. First and foremost, the Qataris condemned Iran's actions by claiming that this was a violation of Qatari sovereignty. But in the same breath, later on in the statement, they said that they had warned about the dangers of the original Israeli escalation in this entire conflict. So there appears to be a message being sent out by Qatar to both Iran as well as Israel. Is that a call to de-escalate? How do you read the response that's coming from Qatar in response to this specific attack?
Well, as a government, they have traditionally played both sides. I think they understand the importance of their positioning geopolitically in the area. And I think they understand the importance of de-escalation. I don't think any of this is a coincidence. I think, like President Trump said, this is theatrics at this point. The Iranians have been devastated by not only Israel, but by the attacks by the United States. And they're looking for a diplomatic, theatrical way out of it. And as long as there's no damage to U.S. assets, as long as American citizens are okay, I actually think that we're going to start to see compromise and greater communication. And the world will understand that you can get peace through strength. And all along, Donald Trump has said, look, I don't have a problem with the Iranian people. They're fantastic people. They're amazing people. We would love to have a great relationship with the Iranians, as well as Benjamin Netanyahu echoed the same sentiments. The problem is Iran having access as the greatest sponsor of state terrorism to a nuclear weapon. Mm-hmm. And as long as they abandon their nuclear program, I believe that we will see a resolution, de-escalation, as Prime Minister Modi has called for. And this is a certain degree of optimism that we're seeing here. And Qatar is playing its role. Every country in the region is playing their political cards right now. And I feel so far this is positive. But look we all know Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. If the Iranians decide to play another card, they better be careful.
All right.
And that's the strength and the brilliance of the president.
I'll come back to Avital Leibovich as well as Captain Alok Bansal in just a short while. We're slipping into a short break. We'll leave you with some of the visuals, of course, following the latest escalation that we've witnessed in this conflict, which is the Iranian attack on the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. Now, welcome back. One question that appears to be on many people's minds is that did Qatar know about Iran's offensive? Now, there are certain reports that have suggested that Qatar did get an advance notice from Iran, and a prior notice was given to ensure that there were no civilian or even military, perhaps, casualties at that particular base in Qatar, about 40 miles southwest of Doha, which is where the attack took place a couple of hours ago. Let me take this across to Colonel Leibovich as well. Colonel Leibovich, some people are saying that this is perhaps in some ways a kind of a fixed match. Now, Iran also needs to be seen to be responding to America's escalation and its direct attack on its nuclear installations. And therefore, when America anticipates that there could possibly be an Iranian response, it evacuates a large number of its personnel from some of its strategic bases in different parts of the Middle East, including this one in particular in Qatar. The Qataris are informed in advance on the part of Iran that we will be sending out a message by attacking this particular base, but not inflicting any serious casualties. And that way, the Iranians also tell their own population that we are in a position to respond, perhaps inflict some amount of damage, and we are willing to go further if provoked. Do you think that's what has actually transpired in this situation, ma'am?
Yes, look, Iran is very weak. Israel has been targeting Iran, flying freely as if the airspace is Israeli, actually, for the last 11 days, causing a lot of casualties among the leaders of the Revolutionary Guards, nuclear scientists, infrastructure of different kinds, taking down different military jets, and so on and so forth. So they're very weak. The last thing that Iran would need now is to engage further with the US with all the power and strength that it has. So this was an easy, coordinated way, on the one hand, to show the people, the 20% of Iranians who support the regime, here we are retaliating, we will not stand idly by when there is an American attack on our assets. And on the other hand, since everything was coordinated in advance, no harm was done. At the end of the day, the base was evacuated. By the way, there was no fire of missiles on Iraq. And by the way, the missiles that Iran used are not the same ballistic missiles it uses when it fires to Israel, because this is a short distance. So we're talking about smaller missiles with a small warhead. So to begin with, the damage capacity is very limited.
Absolutely. Captain Bansal, now Trump is in a position to dismiss this particular Iranian response as theatrics. And at the end of the day, there were no serious casualties, in fact, no casualties whatsoever as a result of this particular attack. But if he's in a position to tell the American people that these are just theatrics on the part of an already weakened country, which is Iran, will Trump respond to this militarily, or will he let it be and allow other players in the region to perhaps exercise some leverage and influence to result in a de-escalation?
Yeah, as far as President Trump is concerned, I'm sure even Vice President Vance and Secretary of State doesn't know what he's going to do. The way he has been conducting his foreign policy has been one statement coming one day, next action, something else. So it's very difficult to predict how Trump will behave or what he will likely to do. That's very difficult. But I think it now primarily depends whether US wants to get into a protracted conflict or it doesn't want to get into a protracted conflict. Because this sort of an attack that has happened could be wished away, may not be wished away. Now that depends whether you want to go for further damage, you want to carry out a further attack on Iran. What is the ultimate objective? Is it regime change or is it only degrading of nuclear infrastructure? If degrading of nuclear infrastructure is concerned, I think they would have attained some sort of success if the attacks were successful, because the attacks were very precise, pinpointed, and they hit the nuclear facilities. What is the intelligence? I don't know. Israelis that way are much better off because they have penetrated their system very deeply. I think Israel has intelligence and information as far as what's happening inside Iran to a very great extent. And they would actually know whether what has been the damage as far as the nuclear infrastructure is concerned. But what is US objective? Based on that, I think the next round of action that you will see from US. Because as of now, what we are getting, the preliminary reports indicate that these attacks have not caused any worthwhile damage. Yep. And Iraqis were informed well in advance. And one of the clearest manifestation was, Qataris were informed well in time, because Qatar Airways actually ceased its flights much before the attack came. Correct. The Qatari airspace was closed well before the attack actually came. And now even UAE and all other Gulf states have virtually closed their airspaces as of now.
Absolutely.
Can I respectfully jump right in there? I'd like to take one exception to your esteemed guest comment. Okay. Donald Trump, my former boss, has been incredibly consistent through this whole matter. Mm-hmm. He absolutely gave 60 days to the Iranians. He gave it to them, and he proceeded to attack on day 61. He also gave 2 weeks to settle it. Not a full 2 weeks, but he said within 2 weeks this matter will be settled. Once he saw that the Iranians were stringing this along, President of the United States, Donald Trump, carried out exactly what he said he would do, which was he would not tolerate a nuclear program and would never allow Iran to have a nuclear bomb. And he's been saying it long before he was the president of the United States. So though you're esteemed guest, I agree with much of his commentary. I have to jump right in there and say the President Trump says what he's, said exactly what he's going to do, and he does it. And that's the strength of President Donald Trump.
Sure, that's a difference of opinion that you have with a fellow panelist. We have some more breaking news coming in, which is that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, has also joined Saudi Arabia to condemn Iran's attack. And they've said that they denounce this offensive in the strongest terms. So there appears to be some unanimity in the region about the condemnation with respect to what Iran has done in Qatar, but all sides also calling for a de-escalation. Ambassador Gunter, I'd like to in fact ask you about one particular contradiction that appears to have emanated from within the American administration, and I'd seek your clarification about this. Marco Rubio, some time ago, actually said that regime change is not an objective that the Americans have at this juncture of the conflict pertaining to Iran. However, within minutes of that particular statement having been made by the American Secretary of State, President Donald Trump puts out a message on Truth Social, talking about making Iran great again and not ruling out the possibility of regime change. So how are we to interpret this kind of behavior? Is this mind games being played in a very coordinated way from people within the American administration, or are these genuine contradictions about American priorities right now as far as this conflict is concerned?
It's a fantastic question. And let me commend Marco Rubio, Secretary Rubio, who is a friend of mine, has done a tremendous job in the area of diplomacy. Let there be no misunderstanding. Making Iran great again will be determined pretty much by the people. I think 80% of the people in Iran right now oppose the current regime. You just have to turn on social media and watch them celebrating what's going on. President Trump has one objective, and one objective only, is that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons and now intercontinental ballistic missiles to use. The first objective, completely destroying their nuclear capabilities, has been accomplished, and they are on the way to destroying their ability to create interballistic missiles to deliver those assets as well. Regime change is not what President Trump is looking for. Let there be no misunderstanding. But it might be what the Iranian population is looking for, and they too, like making America great again, they will probably want to make Iran great again. It's a phenomenal country. They're unbelievable people. President Trump knows this, and let's wait and see. But I know personally, not speaking on behalf of the U.S. government, I would love to see making Iran great again. They're fantastic people, and they deserve their freedom.
Well, we'll see how this evolves. The situation still extremely volatile in that part of the world. But Ambassador Gunter, Captain Alok Bansal, and Colonel Leibovich, many thanks for your invaluable perspective and insights into this developing situation in the Middle East. We'll slip into a short break right now, but our continued coverage of this conflict is something that you'll, of course, see on the other side of the short break. Stay tuned.